Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and welcome to the Durbanville Wine Valley's home of music and song. Daria, in its name, has such a resonant note for all music lovers, but if you like wine as well as music, well, this is the right place. And never more so because a very young and exciting winemaker has joined the team, and 3 vintages in, she's doing some seriously cool stuff. Her name's Elizabeth, she's my guide today, and she's going to take me through a part of the Durbanville Valley that's got a cool history, but an even cooler future. My host, Daria, today is putting on a very brave face. She is smiling, but it's a forced smile. She's pretending to be happy to see me, but had I worked through the entire calendar, I could not have chosen a worse time to arrive because, Elizabeth, it is the middle of harvest. You're already working a 29-hour day, and then you've got me touching down to annoy you in the cellar.
It's okay, Dan. If it was anyone else, we'd send them away, but thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm very excited to join you because I haven't been back to Daria for a while, but I do have very fond memories of an estate that had a couple of really key points, and the one that has always made me smile, and particularly when I see my friend Jock Seeliger, who I know has a small role within the winery. It's this love of music that feeds into Daria. It starts with the name, but then runs through. What is the origin of that? Why are you all so music mad here?
It's definitely not my musical talents. Daria, or aria in Daria, means of a singular performance if you're talking in opera terms, and that was kind of where the whole origin related to music started. We've got a couple of wines, as you know, that are in some way linked to something in the music industry, like for example our music white that we are trying today called the Summer Anthem, and we focus on pulling a couple of threads throughout the whole of the range that has something to do with music, kind of paying homage to that name and the origin thereof.
It's very easy to talk about wine in extremely pretentious terms. Our wine is art and our wine is culturally important, but there is such a natural comparison between wine and music, the composition of both spaces, the work that goes into them, and the joy that both give when done well.
Yeah, that's very true. I also think one of my most important things in music that relates to wine is balance, and an unbalanced song is kind of something that's just frustrating and stuck in your head for all of the wrong reasons, where a balanced song is like a balanced wine. You can enjoy it irrespective of how old it is.
If I think back to when I was at school, which, as your barely suppressed smile suggests, was some time ago, there were people who wanted to be astronauts and policemen and firemen and bank robbers, and these were the things people wanted to be. I can't remember anybody having on their list of things, I would like to be a winemaker, because it is something generally we drink wine at a slightly later point in life. When did that idea come to you that this is something you'd like to do?
I actually hate telling the story because I think wine for me has been such a fantasy of a experience, and the way I came into wine is just not that majestic. I grew up in Bethel and Mpumalanga with parents that are total teetotalers.
Well, I'm sure you will get there because the wine I've had has always been a delight, and you've got a lot happening in the cellar. I had to sign 17 different non-disclosure documents because you're doing all sorts of top secret stuff that we're not allowed to talk about, but there is a real sense of excitement and adventure, particularly to the immediate horizon. And if I'm not mistaken, you are, amongst other things, and I am allowed to talk about this one, playing around with some Grenache.
We are playing around with some Grenache. In my first harvest in 2023, I just felt like there was a lot more that I could do with our Grenache block that is currently going into our blush. And we did a little bit of a trial, and in 2024 we did a beta trial and we now have the 2025 in tank ready to go to bottle, and if all goes well that will be released in due time.
Can we go and discover some of it and get an early glimpse?
We can, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, not only is Elizabeth able to take your devoted teetotal relative and have them wine loving in just weeks, she's also producing incredible wine. The Grenache is to come. Until then, I'm going to finish off some of the summer anthem. It is a Daria music wine. And it has the desired effect. Figaro, 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 Figaro. Let's head into the cellar. So a little earlier we spoke about the Grenache that is being added to the offering at Daria. We're now down in the cellar with a grape that I'm seeing more of. I'm seeing more time and energy being put into. I think this is a grape that's going to become more and more a feature on the South African wine spectrum, and the fact that you're jumping into it would suggest you agree.
The decision was made to do a trial basis on the Grenache. So this is our 2024 that's currently in barrel, and if all goes well, we'll have it added to our portfolio on a very limited basis.
What is it giving you as a winemaker that we, as those who get to drink it, will then discover once it's made its way to our glasses?
Well, my opinion of it is really that cool climate fruit that's coming through. It's a very it's got a lot of light red fruit, and it's got some florals in it as well. And then there's a slight spicy hint that comes through, but I think that's more to the barrel that I use than of the cultivar itself. The intent behind this wine is really to be something that is enjoyed, or that can be enjoyed at any time of the year, and that can be enjoyed by wine lovers and people that are not necessarily so into wine as yet.
I'm always slightly tentative when I try red wine in particular that is quite this young, because I'm waiting to have to pretend not to grimace and tell you through gritted teeth that I think it's lovely. But although it's clearly a long way away from being complete, already those building blocks are there and you can start to get a sense of where it's going.
This barrel that we sampled is only one of two of the components that I'll use in the final blend. It is quite young, it's still going through its malolactic fermentation, so it is definitely not the easiest to enjoy right now, but thank you for the compliments on the building blocks.
All right, like it's all part of the process of learning and discovering wine, which I do every day, very happily, sometimes, as is the case now, very early on in the morning. But part of the other adventure that wine gives us when we visit places like yours here at Daria is to actually get out into the vineyards. You do have a beautiful farm. Can we go on safari, so to speak? Can we go and explore some vineyards?
We're going to, we can definitely. I've got one of our older blocks that I'd love to show you.
All right, I think I can handle that. This Grenache might have a little way to go, so I shall leave it to age happily in barrel and go and do some exploring out in the vineyards of the Durbanville Valley. Goodbye cellar, hello vineyard, and hello a new guest on the show. Now, you know a winemaker is properly made it when she has her own personal security when she travels around. Luke, lovely to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome to Down Relax Wine. Tell me a bit about your role here at Daria.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit of everything, but I think the way you described it now as saying security for Libby sums it up quite well. It's kind of just a second set of eyes and ears, and overall just taking care of the vineyards and most of the things outside, ensuring that the quality of stuff that we get into the cellar, and obviously that I bring to Libby, is up to her standards and up to Daria standards, so we can get the good product out to the people. And other than that, just general maintenance items here and there. Wherever there's something needed, I'll probably jump in and see to it that it gets done.
For this partnership, it is so critical, because as much as you do know exactly what you're doing, anybody in any profession second guesses themselves from time to time, and when you have all of these variables that are at play in winemaking, you need a lieutenant you can trust.
Very true, Dan. No, I'm very fortunate to have Luke here as part of the team under Aria. He joined us just before harvest in December last year as farm foreman, and he's really been a critical part of what's made the harvest of 2025 a success thus far. That's to say, when he's on the farm, I don't know what he's doing when he's not here.
No, we don't talk about that. It's fine.
Well, when you are on the farm, you've
Yeah.
got you got some great vineyards to look after, and I look at these ones and they fill me with joy because there's clearly so much history to them. For people who don't know vines so well, Luke, the farmer's perspective, you've got these really old and gnarled vines that suggest a lot of age. Before we get into the grapes with our winemaker, just tell me a bit about this vineyard from a farmer's perspective.
Yeah, so obviously bush vine in itself is it's quite special to work with. You get a lot more, if I can put it, character. Even the vine itself looks like it's got a lot of character, and I think the grapes itself express it very well. So the age, obviously we're not trellising up these vines, so you've got this wonderful, almost like burl-like growth coming out of it, and it gives you this it gives it an intense look, but really what it does is it focuses a lot to give you that structure and character, like I said now, that you want in the grapes, that you're looking for. It concentrates everything quite nicely, and it also gives it quite a nice cover. Obviously we're growing it out into literally the name itself, a bush vine, instead of where you have these straight trellises and high growing canopy. You've got this bush sense, so you get the same, but with, I almost want to say, a little less intervention. It kind of runs its own path and does exceptionally well in a climate like this.
Let's have a look at those grapes. Here's one I prepared earlier. And these are these tiny little Cabernet Sauvignon grapes. Cabernet has this majesty to it as a grape. It's a very storied part of our varietal chain. And yet these grapes are not majestic, they're tiny, they're little. They almost look like they need to be given a hug and taken care of. And yet once you get down to them, I'll let you guys grab one of each of them there. They're hardy little things, these. They've got so many of the elements that once you try them, you realise, yeah, I can see how that translates into the Cabernet Sauvignon I drink.
Yeah. No, the quality of these grapes, it's really something special to see a vine of this age being able to manage through the temperatures and through the climate that we have. This is the last block of Cabernet that we'll be harvesting this year, and if you compare this to what some of the younger blocks still look like, those skins are much thinner, and there's definitely a little bit less of a tannin structure in those cabs, where this, with the concentration that you have in the berry, with it being so small, you get a really special tannin from out of these berries, and the concentration not only of tannin but also of the flavors that we have in this, it's really being shown quite well. We unfortunately don't give them a hug in the cellar. We actually punch them quite intensely.
You're not nice people, winemakers, are you?
Well, I mean, the juice trapped inside is what's really appreciative of the tough moments that they go through.
Of course, Luke, she'll take all the credit for this wine, because that's what winemakers do, but it's actually you and the guys out on the farm who make it all work. What is the challenge with this? Is this a grape that needs a lot of help and needs a lot of care, or does it kind of get on with itself?
Pruning is so important for this vine. The spraying that we do, you have to make sure you spray the right thing at the right time, to give that vine the boost that you needed to produce the fruit that eventually Libby will take into the cellar and process. So it's delicate, it's well timed, but in the end, I think it's fun. I enjoy it. So I mean, no complaints. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, if you love what you do, then it doesn't seem that hectic.
The intensity is certainly there. There's that sweetness of fruit. Then right at the end, just as you're enjoying it, that tannic snap comes in at the end to remind you of the completeness of the grape. That then has to become what is in my glass now. Talk me through the transition from this to this.
So this is only one of our Cabernet blocks. It's a block that we bring into the cellar by harvesting by hand into crates of about 15.5 kg. So there's a really big focus on ensuring that each crate that is picked is of the highest quality. And once it gets to the cellar, we have a belt that it runs through where there's some hand sorting going on, and then it goes straight into our open fermenters for punch downs. It's punched down 2 to 3 times a day, and we also do a couple of rack and returns and pump overs on the tank, ensuring that we extract all of the goodness that's trapped in the skin and also on the inside of the berry. Of the other components that are also part of this cab serve in our glass, we use pump overs as a method of extraction on those. Because of the fact that they've got a little bit of a thinner skin, they're a lot more giving in the sense of extraction, and you don't want to over extract that fruit.
And ultimately, you get this, which is another wonderful addition to the Daria range. The only thing really that is missing is that lovely cooling breeze that normally comes off the Atlantic. We're now in the middle of a heat wave. It's 47 degrees by my calculation. So we're going to say goodbye to the vineyards, let Luke get back to work, go and seek some shelter and try out a couple of final glasses of wine. Cheers. So the cellar is done, the vineyards are done, and now time to kick back in some very welcome air conditioning for a look at the peak of what you offer at Daria. But before we dive into the wine itself, yes, you've only got a certain number of vintages under the belt here, but wherever you've made wine, when you get that first glass, that first bottled glass of something that you have begun the process of, what sort of a kick does it give you? What sort of a kid at Christmas feel is there?
It's something, I don't want to say it's something you can't describe because it sounds so cliche, but it really is the truth. Having a first bottle of wine produced is, once it's finalized and you see it going through on the labeling line, it's this feeling of actually finishing something that was already started years ago. It's a very finite feeling. But the best part of it is just knowing that whatever you've started and what you actually put in bottle is the start of the bottle's next process. That bottle might only be opened in a couple of years, it might be opened in a couple of days after it being bottled, and it's part of the excitement of the journey of wine.
I have friends who are obsessed with sports memorabilia. They collect jerseys and cricket wickets and rugby balls, and generally fill their garages to their wives' dismay. Are you something like that in a wine sense? Do you keep a first bottle of everything you've done? Do you have a collection of that sort?
I do. I have a bit of a wine collection at home. I also keep a collection in the cellar to keep track of what we've done. So we started a new little vinotheek in the cellar, starting with the 2023 vintage that I did, and it's exciting to, when you put something new in bottle, or even just before it's been bottled, pull out some of those older vintages and just compare and see where this journey is taking you. I feel quite embarrassed to tell you how many of my kitchen cupboards have been transformed into wine storage since the massive cupboard in the entryway is no longer big enough. But no, it's exciting. I think one of the most daunting things of finishing a bottle of wine is having a bit of a educated guess of how many people might actually be tasting your bottles of wine. And that's quite a scary thing, knowing how
It's also so cool. I mean, as we speak now, there could be somebody in Peru at 1 o'clock in the morning who's wrapping up a bender of a night and opening the bottle of Daria that his cousin bought on a safari holiday 2 years ago. Or there's someone sitting in a cafe in Belgium starting their lunch with a Daria bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. You've got no idea of knowing who those people are and where they are. But it's such a cool concept.
It really is. It's a sense of connecting on an international scale with something starting so minuscule as just a berry off of a vine. So it's really special.
I get goosebumps and stuff like that. I also get goosebumps at the prospect of really good wine, which is what we have here. This is a tasting you can actually do if you come to Daria.
Yes, it is. It's again something music themed. It's our Grammys tasting, and it's our reserve wines that we are offering as a tasting in Riedel glassware.
All right, well, we have the first of those, again, in the song space, of the Songbird.
Yes.
I truly feel we should be breaking out into the taste of the wines. No, never mind. Apologies, Ronan. All right, tell me about the Songbird.
So the Songbird is our premium Sauvignon Blanc, produced predominantly using only one of our blocks on Springfield. This was the first vintage of Songbird that I put into a bottle for Daria, so it just brings up those feelings that you mentioned earlier or asked about earlier. I'm quite proud of this product. It's recently got a 4.5 stars from Platters, which was just kind of another bit of a hoo-ha for the wine. It's quite spectacular. It's also the last vintage that's not going to be a single vineyard. So the new vintage waiting in bottle to be released is our first Songbird that's going to be a single vineyard.
Which I think is an accolade of which the wine is worthy, because that does say there's something special about this, and that's exactly what this particular glass does. And I love seeing the smile on the winemaker's face when you remember, hey, I made this and it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's quite satisfying. I think it's again a lovely showcase of cool climate Durbanville Sauvignon Blanc. It's partially wooded, so you get some of that vanilla characteristics, just embellishing the palate a little bit, and I think it's got a lovely finish and still a lot of aging potential.
Which is something we're going to have to talk about at length next time I come and visit, which I'm planning to do. And
Awesome.
You can reveal all these secrets you've been holding back in your other wines. We then move on to the Soprano, and this is some Shiraz. There has been talk with a number of the winemakers I've spent time with this week of the Bordeaux element that you have to Durbanville. You've got that cool breeze coming in. It's not a dissimilar climate to a lot of Bordeaux, and yet Bordeaux is not where you find Shiraz. So tell me why this is working so well for you.
Well, Shiraz is one of the largest plantings on the Daria properties. It's a bit of a weird grape to work with, to be quite honest. It's just showcasing so much potential in the valley. I think that cool climate effect that we do have really leans itself to the bit of spice that you can get out of a Shiraz, and I myself prefer a Shiraz that's not been overly or that's not overly jammy, that still shows or showcases the vineyard a little bit more, instead of just how you can mask a couple of things in the cellar.
It's semantics, of course, but it almost lends itself to the idea of Syrah as elegance more than the Shiraz might out of South Australia. And it's got, again, you mentioned it earlier, that sense of balance that's so important to wine, and that's it. It's right here. And this is the Soprano. The Songbird, the Soprano, do they refer to anyone in particular, or is it just a continuation of this theme of love of music?
It's the continuation of the theme, but the Songbird is also a part of our logo, with the little bird following our muse. That's a little songbird following her. So it's continuing our theme through from the name of the farm or the winery all the way through to finer details on the label itself and the name of the wines.
Well, you have two themes that are running through. One of them is the theme of music. The other is some really nice wine, but I think it's only just getting started. And I'm really excited. There's all this stuff you told me off camera, the stuff about the new hotels and the helicopter you're getting for personal use and all this other stuff. There's some really exciting developments on the cards, and we'll have to come back to find out about those. But what's really exciting me is how excited you clearly are about what lies ahead. And I think Daria's got much to look forward to.
Yeah, no, I really am excited. We've got a fantastic team on Daria in the cellar as well as in the vineyards, and I'm just excited for what the future is going to bring, seeing how our wines that are already in bottle have aged, and seeing how the things that are still hanging in the vineyards are going to be completed.
I shall be back, but until then, thank you for being my tour guide today, and apologies again for taking you away from your harvest. I probably set you back about a week, but I'm quite happy to have done that because I've really enjoyed the wine and I've had way too much fun.
No, it was a pleasure having you, Dan. Thanks for coming, and when you visit again, let's do it in September.
That's a deal. Cheers.